The women's bouldering semi-final took place earlier today and it was everything we hoped for. Whereas in the men's bouldering semi-finals, which took place yesterday, a single top would land you in the top 5 and 2 tops in the top position. In the women's event, there were far more tops, meaning that it had a very different feel. As a result of this, it wasn't just about getting as many tops of as many problems as you could, but doing so in as few attempts as possible. There were a varied set of problems on the wall which mirrored the styles we saw yesterday in the men's bouldering semi-finals. Problem 1 was powerful and grueling. Problem 2 was explosive and dynamic. Problem 3 was all about coordination and flexibility. And problem 4, the slab, was all about balance and composure. Team GB athlete Erin McNeice was out early on, and she made the first top of the day, completing problem 2, and then going on to complete problem 3 as well. Now by this stage, we were unsure as to how significant 2 tops would be, the higher seeded athletes all coming out a little later. But 2 tops certainly bode well for Erin. Camilla Moroni from Italy also topped problem 2 and made good progress on problem 4, the slab, the amazing looking slab. Supposedly the favourite of the problems on the wall of chief route setter Garrett Greger. One of the standout performances from today was undoubtedly Australia's Oceana McKenzie, who came in and absolutely smashed problem 1 on the flash, which up until that point hadn't yet been climbed. She then proceeded to climb problem 2 on her second attempt and problem 3 on her third, showing fine form throughout. Oriane Bertone from France also managed to complete problems 1 and 2 and flash that third problem. The crowd was obviously behind Oriane, and it was clear from the noise alone that she had stepped onto the mats. Team USA also put in a solid performance, with Brooke Raboutou completing problems 1, 2 and 4, and Natalia Grossman problems 2 and 4. However, this was all building up to the last person out on the mat, and the one that we had all been waiting for, Janja Garnbret, the defending Olympic champion. And on problem 1, which incidentally she flashed, she just seemed to have more time to hang about and figure out the beater than anybody else. And she showed that similar level of dominance throughout the rest of the problem and was the only competitor to top all 4 problems. We don't think that she took more than a minute to climb any of the first 3, meaning that she would have got 7 minutes rest, significantly more than any other competitor on each and every problem. For those competitors who are battling out to the wire and taking up that full 4-minute allocation, they only have 4 minutes rest. Janja has almost double that. It pays to be that good. At this point, we want to give a shout out to Team GB athlete Molly Thompson-Smith, who had a tough round, but it subsequently emerged that she broke her toe 5 weeks ago, which is tough going into an Olympics. But from the interview that our editor had with her afterwards, it sounds like she's just enjoying soaking in that Olympic atmosphere. In first place, Slovenia's Janja Garnbret with 99.6 points. In second place, France's Oriane Bertone with 84.5 points. In third place, America's Brooke Raboutou with 83.7 points. In fourth place, Oceana McKenzie with 79.6 points. In fifth place, America's Natalia Grossman with 69.2 points. In sixth place, Austria's Jessica Pilz with 68.8 points. In seventh, Japan's Miho Nanaka with 64.4 points. In 8th place, Italy's Camilla Moroni with 64 points. Team GB's Erin McNeice is currently in 10th place with 59.6 points. Now by our calculations, there are between 2 and 4 competitors in the lead, which Erin is stronger than in lead. So there's a very distinct chance that she'll be able to find her way into that top 8 places and thus qualify for the finals. But it is without doubt all to play for, both for Erin and the rest of the field. On the note of the lead, when it comes to who to watch out for, Cheon-So from Korea and Ai Mori from Japan are without doubt 2 of the lead specialists that we anticipate rising up the field. Of course, Janja can't get any further up the field than she is already, but we also anticipate her being similarly dominant in the lead competition. UKC editor Natalie Berry was in Paris at the venue, and here is her report from the day.
There were so many more tops in the women's round that just made it that bit more exciting. Everyone seemed really motivated and psyched. So we had two Brits competing again today, Erin McNeice and Molly Thompson-Smith. And Erin was out first of the two of them. She got the first top of the competition, which was amazing. On Boulder 2, just looked so on form today. 2 tops overall. When I spoke to her afterwards, she was just, yeah, over the moon. She was annoyed that she didn't top the slab boulder. She said her favourite boulder was number 2 because of the sort of cool jumpy moves. But yeah, I think she was really happy with how she performed and just a bit sort of, I don't know, in awe of the crowd. She had a really funny comment. She said, for once I think it was crazier in front of the wall than behind the wall in isolation because of crazy competitors and stuff. But yeah, she was just really enjoying herself and really pleased with her performance. Molly Thompson-Smith put in a really solid performance across the 4 boulders in a really hard round, and she spoke to us afterwards and just said, you know, how proud she is of herself for having made it. She's had so many setbacks, so many injuries. She broke her toe 5 weeks ago, so even just to be there is just such a huge achievement for her. It's her childhood dream. She always wanted to go to the Olympics and become an Olympian, and there she was. I said to her, you've made it, you know, you've done it. And she's got lead to come, which is her strongest discipline, and she said she's really just looking forward to, you know, showing what she's capable of in lead and putting in a solid performance on Thursday. On the way to the competition, we bumped into Molly Thompson-Smith's parents, Angela and Tony, and it was just such a coincidence, but great because they were there wearing the Go Molly t-shirts with a photo of Molly on them. So it was really nice to see them before the competition. They were like quite nervous, but also excited, and they just said, however Molly does, we're so proud of her. Her biggest achievement was making the Olympics, and yeah, whatever the result, we're just so proud, and they were just really excited to be going to support her. The biggest cheers of the day definitely came for the French team, Oriane Bertone in particular. She came second in Boulder. When I spoke to her afterwards, she said that, yeah, the crowd, I drew a lot of energy from the crowd. Like, I don't feel pressure on home turf. They're there to watch us, and yeah, they just sort of pushed her up the wall with their cheers. Unsurprisingly, reigning Olympic champion Janja Garnbret showed exactly why she's called the GOAT of climbing, the only woman to get 4 tops in the semi-final round. She just looked so dominant. I mean, she only fell off about 3 times, and every time she fell off, the crowd like inhaled their breath. They seemed so shocked that she was actually falling off on a problem. But yeah, afterwards she said she really enjoyed the problems, and yeah, she looked like she was having fun. She said it was just good to get out there and climb after like nearly a year of waiting to compete in the Olympics. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing her in the lead round and hopefully seeing her in the finals.
So tomorrow we see the men heading into the lead semi-finals, and UKC editor Zar White has looked into a few of the favourites.
A climber that needs no introduction. Arguably the greatest of all time across all disciplines, Adam Ondra is a climber that has already left a legacy like no other, and he's still only 31. Back in 2010, at the age of just 17, Adam became the first climber to win overall World Cups in both boulder and lead. Only one other male climber, Serato Anraku in 2023, has achieved this since. On rock, Adam was the first climber to climb a 9B plus route, the first climber to climb a 9C route, the first climber to flash a 9A plus route, and the second climber to on-site a 9A route. He has also climbed 4 boulders at 8C plus, 3 of which were first ascents, and none of which have been repeated. On top of that, he has made the only repeat to date of Tommy Caldwell and Kevin Jorgensen's El Capitan route, the Dawn Wall, the hardest big wall route in the world. In a way, it's a shame that sport climbing at the Olympics wasn't around earlier, as Adam would no doubt have a couple of gold medals to his name if it had. Having participated in 237 IFSC comps since his youth debut in 2004, Jakob Schubert is a living legend of the comp climbing scene. Since winning his first senior gold in 2009, Jakob has won at least one gold medal in 11 of the 14 subsequent years. He may be one of the older athletes in Paris, but Jakob doesn't show any signs of slowing down, and his recent form should put all other competitors on notice. His 2023 was one of the most impressive all-round years of climbing there has ever been. In addition to a world-class year climbing outside on the ruck, he won gold in lead at both the Villars World Cup and the Bern World Championships, as well as gold in the combined boulder and lead competition in Bern, which saw him claim the first ticket to Paris. Jakob is a climber who loves the big stage, and he always seems to be at his best when it matters most. As the final competitor out at the Tokyo Olympics, he fought his way to the top of the lead route, in doing so dragging himself from 5th place up into the bronze medal position. He was the only person to top the route, and where others had failed, he made it look pretty straightforward. This time around, he won't have the speed, in which he finished 7th out of the 7 competing finalists, holding him back. When it comes to current form, Hamish MacArthur is somewhat of an unknown entity. After taking the competition climbing scene by storm by winning bronze in the lead on his World Championships debut, as well as 7th place in the boulder, Hamish for a long time seemed unable to recapture that same form, even though he has made multiple World Cup finals since. And yet, when it came to the Olympic qualifying series, Hamish seemed to have reached a whole new level. Coming back from an injury that saw him unable to compete at the beginning of the year, but which forced him to examine climbing and movement in completely new ways, Hamish registered 3 podium finishes and a 4th place finish out of the 6 climbing rounds in Shanghai. With one foot in Paris, Hamish cemented his place at the Games during the Budapest leg of the OQS, where he finished just outside of the final 8. With a fresh new approach to climbing, rooted more in fun and exploration than the results that may or may not come his way, Hamish now seems able to tap into his ability more freely than he could before, and all without the pressure of results or expectation. An enticing prospect for those watching, and potentially a dangerous one for those competing against him.
We caught up with British medal hopeful Toby Roberts late last year, shortly after he had qualified to the Olympics, and talked to him about that qualification process, his training, and much more.
It seems a little unfair to pick out bouldering as a weakness for Toby Roberts, as he had an excellent first season on the senior circuit. But 3 top 5 finishes in the lead, compared to 2 top 5 finishes in the boulder, has left us with no alternative. In reality, whilst Toby has more experience in lead climbing, his bouldering form across the 2023 season was top tier, with his finest moment being gold in Brixen, where he won on the final attempt of the final boulder as the final athlete out on the mats. And moments like that are an indication of just how well Toby can handle the pressure, despite it being so early in his senior career. Toby followed boulder gold in Brixen with lead gold in Chamonix. During the final route, Toby's approach was measured and analytical, with perfect pacing and extreme composure. Even when it looked like his forearms were pumped and his fingers were screaming, you could tell that Toby was as focused as he had been from the moment he left the ground, exploring different beta options, finding mini rests, and even pausing 2 holds short of the route's top to psych up the crowd before the final dynamic move. Whilst there are plenty of people out there with more experience than Toby, his ability to dig deep when the pressure is on and try really, really, really hard is something you don't often see. If there was an Olympic medal for being psyched, trying hard, and loving climbing, Toby would already have the gold.
So we're going to talk a little bit about your past, present, and future. And I guess to begin with, I mean, how did you start climbing?
So I started climbing at like an after-school club. My parents weren't climbers. I put my name down on the list to go after school. I had like a science teacher who was really into his climbing, and he sort of egged me on to give it a go. And ever since that moment where I stepped foot in like the school hall with like a small little climbing wall at the end of it, I just got hooked. I got the bug, and yeah, from that point on, I just kept doing it.
What was it about climbing? Because I mean, where you grew up as well, in like the south of England, it's not exactly like, how shall I put this politely? For the record, I grew up in the south of England. It's not a hotbed of climbing activity.
Yeah, the south of England, it's to be honest, it's been an absolute nightmare. It's been so hard. We've had the amount of long journeys up to the north to get the training in has been so hard. So starting climbing there wasn't like the most gyms around, but I just loved it so much that it didn't really matter to me where I was. I just loved sort of climbing.
And to begin with, because I feel like we're dealing with such a compressed time scale with you, because you're 18 now, and when you were 10, you became the youngest person to Red Point 8A, Rain Dogs. Yeah. I think that is a correct thing.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, how did you get to that point? At that point, were you up to the point of the age of 10? Were you training? Were you just climbing to have fun? Like, what was the balance?
In the early stages, I was literally just climbing to have fun. I loved climbing. I still love climbing, obviously. And yeah, Rain Dogs being my first ever sort of big project, to like grab the chains of that was a surreal moment.
How long did it take you at the time?
Rain Dogs, I can't actually remember. It was so long. It feels so long ago now. But obviously the extension to that is Rain Shadow, which is another route I put a lot of work into as I got a bit older.
And you did that a few years later, because I was at Malham around the time that Will did it when he was 17.
Yeah.
And you did it aged, I think, was it 16 or
15? Yeah, 15 I think.
And
even that feels like a long time ago now.
It was, I guess.
Yeah.
And, so in between Rain Dogs and Rain Shadow, did something change there? Were you just still like ballooning around, having the time of your life, no real structure to training, or like, had something changed? Just because I've been climbing quite a few years now, and I've actually failed to Red Point Rain Dogs, and Rain Shadow's sort of lack of consequence. It's not, most people don't progress this quickly without.
Yeah, well, when I was 15, I had more of a structure to my training, but still, I loved climbing, and most of my climbing training was just climbing and going to the crag, enjoying it. And I did Rain Shadow during lockdown, or like in and around that sort of time where the training wasn't readily like sort of available. So it was so nice just to go to the cove and be able to put some effort into like something that hard.
And I mean, we focused on the outdoors just there, but like you obviously were competing as a junior climber as well. Do you want to tell us a bit about the highs and lows throughout that?
So I've competed my whole life, ever since my first ever time in a climbing centre when I was 8 years old was a climbing competition. That was the YCS, first round of that. So I've gone through all of the YCS sort of rounds, all through E and D, those categories. I've gone, countless amounts of like European competitions, and I just absolutely love it. I love the buzz I get from competition climbing. In the climb session earlier on, you were sat on the sofa with Shauna Coxey, and what I really liked as well, because Shauna is obviously, I guess at the other end of her comp climbing career, she's sort of, moved out and away from that. Yeah. But your unrelenting psyche for training, climbing, it's like every day is a flipping new day. And Shauna, I think, was a little bit more philosophical about, so we say the bad days and the ebbs and flow of psyche. I just love training. I love like really putting in the hard work. Sometimes just getting to the end of the day and just feeling absolutely shattered, like that for me is almost sometimes more rewarding than the actual competitions. I love just pushing myself sort of like to that limit. It's like really satisfying for me. And I guess then moving from juniors into seniors as well. I mean, we've seen a lot of people have real hard time moving from one to the other because there is just such a step up. And we were mentioning actually Jim Pope earlier on, and he's someone actually who has made that transition. But the thing that he said when I've spoken to him in recent years has been that, so he's climbing better than he has ever climbed in his life, and yet in competitions, he's coming back with poorer performances. And the reason being is that the standard right now is unbelievable. I mean, absolutely, like the level each year is just getting higher and higher and higher. The setters are like having to push boundaries in all sorts of different ways just to try and get like separation between the climbers. People are just getting so strong. So coming up through the youth, it can be quite daunting, like stepping onto the senior mats and then playing with all the big dogs suddenly. But for me, what was really important to like not let that get to me was just to remember that I'm doing this like for myself. I love climbing. It's no different, and just to go out on the mats and just climb, because it's no different to anything else I've been doing before. I mean, it must be weird
stepping onto the mats with the likes of, say, Adam Ondra.
Yeah.
And I mean, you talked a little bit about Adam earlier. When we spoke to Will, he'd mentioned Adam as well as being both a role model, but also just this fantastic and positive ambassador almost as well.
Yeah, well, all of these top guys, which I've been watching since I was a kid, what's apparent like when you get on the scene is that they're all just so nice. Like climbers, everyone's in the same boat. Everyone loves climbing. Everyone loves competing who goes to competitions. Whether you're outdoor climbing, indoor climbing, everyone just is there for sort of the same reasons. So regardless of the level, everyone's so supportive. So that was really nice to come onto the scene and for them to almost just be like a father figure almost.
Do you want to talk a bit about how your season went maybe? And also maybe before we get onto that, how you prepped for the season as well? Because I'm aware we joke about how inconvenient the south of England is, but the impression I get is that you didn't necessarily train all the time in the south of England. You went out to Innsbruck and I guess further north to say Sheffield and the various other walls around there.
Yeah, before my first like international season, there was a hard winter before that of like really hard training, like a lot of weights, a lot of that sort of stuff, the real conditioning to get your body like ready for the season. And then as I come into like January, February time, I tried to get abroad. I spent a lot of time in Innsbruck with my dad.
Which is, I mean, it is a mind-blowing facility, isn't it?
Innsbruck is incredible. We seriously need an Innsbruck in the UK.
I remember when I first went to see Innsbruck and they were talking about how much they'd invested in it, and they saw it as an investment because of the fact that, well, you've only got to look at how big Austria is and how, well, look at the likes of Jakob and, you know, the long lineage of top-end competitors that they've got to realise that if you invest in the infrastructure, the athletes, they're training in that exact same environment that they're going to be competing in.
Yeah, exactly. So we sort of realised that you can either sit in the UK and sort of complain about it, or you can get out to Innsbruck and then really make use of those facilities. So it was just, I can't stress how important it was getting out to Innsbruck and like these crazy facilities before my season. It's just such a help.
I feel like at this point we need to do a shout out for your dad, Tristan, not least because he's sat just there out of camera, but also because you know, the other side of every competitor is their support team as well. And I'm guessing you need a belayer, you need like a pep talk. Yeah. I'm not sure how his physio is, but you know.
It's improving. What's really important is to be able to just fully focus on the climbing. You don't want to go into a competition and have so many things to take care of in your mind. You just want to be able to go and focus, and that's what I'm so like. My dad is just such a, he fully supports me, and I know that he's got my best interests at heart. So I can just go out and focus on the climbing, and I know that in the background he'll
take the rest of the stress on his shoulders.
I'm so grateful for for everything he does. Yeah.
And tell me about your coach as well.
My coach is my dad, surprisingly. Taxi. Coach, just everything. So it's so nice to have that relationship with my dad. Like now that he's properly sort of established as my coach.
Does he charge competitive rates as well?
Oh yeah. It comes at a price. Yeah. There's a big bill waiting for me when I turn the appropriate age. I'm guessing. I'm joking. But yeah, it's so nice to have my dad as my coach. We got a good relationship, and I sort of trust. That he's got my best interests at heart, and that's why I think it works so well.
Should we talk a bit about this season and how it went? Because again, it's like a lot of these things. It started was a bit of a roller coaster, but then, I mean, it really went. I mean, it ended with a bang. Yeah.
So my season started in Hachioji for the first Boulder World Cup, and I ended this just outside the semi-final, which my first ever senior international World Cup. I was pretty gutted not to be in the semi-final after all of that training, but I knew that I had to keep confidence. You can't let one bad result or not so good result get to you, otherwise the next ones will just be the same. So I took Hachioji, I really learned from that, and then my next few comps I started to see huge improvements.
I mean, it felt like there was real momentum.
Yeah, momentum
built,
was
and
a big thing.
every single one, it felt like it was just building and building and building. But the thing that we could tell as from an audience perspective was just, you were just having it. You were having the time of your life. And you've only got to look at some of the highlights to see like the look on your face as you top routes or boulders are just like, you're just in your element, and the crowd were fully backing you.
The progression through the season has been incredible. Like you said, I love being in that environment. Like when the crowd's behind you, you're on the wall, you're fighting hard, you're giving everything. That's my favourite place to be, and to sort of find that so many times in the season, like that moment is just like feels incredible.
And so it was all going well. Obviously, Olympic qualifying sort of started to come onto the horizon. And I guess Bern is probably the logical place to start there. That ironically didn't go to plan, and it wasn't, I'm sure, in the plan that you had that season, because everything was going so well, and then this, I guess it was, the pressure is on, isn't it?
Yeah. At the start of the season, there was no expectation, no pressure. First ever international season. No one's looking at you. You can go out there. You're enjoying the blocks. No one's really fussed about you. And then when you suddenly get a couple of good results, then, which happened for me before the Bern World Champs, suddenly when I went out to the Bern World Champs, I was like, oh gosh, there's people who are expecting me to get a certain place. If I don't make semis, then it's going to be a surprise for some people, and that was really hard, because I started climbing. I wasn't flowing. I was really in like a cage. I was almost had like pressure on my shoulders suddenly, which wasn't a problem earlier in the season, and it really showed in Bern.
It's hard, I guess, isn't it? Because like you want to treat those competitions almost as like play still. You want to have that fluid movement that you have, like just when you're having fun. But when something as big as the Olympics comes on, and also, I guess the sooner you qualify for the Olympics, just the better it is, isn't it? You do not want to leave it for the qualifier 8 weeks before, because it would just be mind-bendingly stressful. But you bounced back from that, obviously, didn't you?
Yeah, bouncing back from Bern was, I'm really happy with how it went after Bern. So we sort of established, after that, I was like 4 holds away from getting the Olympic ticket in Bern. I was pretty beat down after Bern. We went away, we established what went wrong, and realised that you just got to like go out and enjoy it, man. Like, I love climbing. What's the point in putting all that pressure on yourself? So the 2 months after Bern was just filled with really enjoyable trainings, cool trips to Paris, Innsbruck, good coaching team. It was all a laugh, and I was able to go out in Laval, fully enjoy it, and that's when the best results come. And to get the ticket there, just it still doesn't feel real. So I'm really happy.
I mean, where do we start with this? What's the first question I ask? The first one is a silly one, but how does it feel to finish ahead of Adam Ondra? I mean, because Adam is, he's Adam Ondra, he's the greatest of all time. And then when Toby Roberts is sort of there, just above Adam Ondra, like, does it just feel like a weird dream or something?
Yeah, it's really strange. I've watched Ondra and Schubert throughout my whole life. Like, I've watched them on the World Cup scene. I've always aspired to compete alongside them, and to be in that, like, suddenly competitive against them, like, I'm just living my dream. It feels so good.
You have to pinch yourself at times.
Yeah, it's like, oh, this is real.
God.
Like, we got some photos of me and Ondra, and I'm just a kid. Yeah. I remember that was like a Westway climb event where he came and it was at the Westway. He sort of came and did like a feature climb, and I was like, oh my God, it's Adam Ondra.
And back then when you met him, could you have ever dreamed?
I mean, it was a dream. It wasn't a goal at that time. It was just a dream. And for that to slowly progress throughout all of the years, for it to suddenly become like a goal and then a reality at the end of this season, I just keep pinching myself, like I'm not dreaming.
And I guess then secondary to that, how did it feel to qualify for the Olympics?
There's not many words to describe it. Like, I think the best way to describe it is the video at the end of after that final climb.
Let's go, Toby! Let's go!
Of this noise.
There's his dad.
Even they look happy.
There's Toby's dad.
What a moment.
That's what I wanted to see.
I cannot wait to see that picture.
And I tell you what, just to shout out Tristan, he travels the world with Toby. He's his...
coming down, screaming my head off, like jumping around the place, giving my dad a massive hug. The coach is going crazy. Like, that video encapsulates years and years and years of hard work and dedication to get to that point. And yeah, getting the ticket there, oh man, it's just a perfect storytell ending.
And you've come, I feel, like a particularly good time. It's Paris 2024, they've obviously separated out speed into the combined format, which features both lead and boulder. So I guess my next question would be like, what happens now then? Back into the cellar, back into the training wall again?
Yeah, on the speed note, like I'm very happy speed was taken out. I'm happy for Shauna. She took the brunt of that Olympic decision, but yeah, now it's separated out. I think it's a lot better for the sport. The speed climbers didn't want to do lead and boulder, and the lead and boulderers don't want to do speed climbing. But yeah, now with the Olympics on the horizon, like it feels like a long way away, beginning of August, but it's not really. Like I'm gonna take a bit of rest and recovery time in November, and then December it's like hard training, like starts again. I've got 2 months planned in
You're probably more psyched for that to begin than you are the rest. How are you
training.
with rest?
I'm not so good with rest. I find it really hard to stay away from climbing. Like since I've been back, it's been like if I spend 2 days without climbing, I just get the itch to go again. So I think we're planning on going somewhere where I physically can't get to a climbing center, so I can just fully relax and get ready for training. It's going to be hard, but when I get back, I'm going to be ready to give it everything for like 2 months of hard base training, and then after the base training, it's all the then the trips start and like the nice part of it.
I guess I was going to ask. We were talking, amongst the UKC team, as to whether or not you're looking to do any competitions next year, because obviously it's good to have little sharpeners, but you don't want those sharpeners to become a drain in the lead up to Paris, because I'm assuming that Paris is ultimately like the priority number one.
Yeah. So I also, whilst I don't want to do too many competitions, I also don't want to do too few. Like I really love competing. Like I love competing, so I don't want to go without any competitions until Paris. So the plan is to do all my training and then do the World Cups at the start of the season, even though I might not be in like peak form at that point. I'm not really fast. I just want to go out and then get myself in some World Cups and just enjoy them, and then that's like a solid part of my training for the Olympics.
And I feel like this is a really impossible question to ask you, because given that Paris is like the huge thing it is, asking you about what you're going to do after that just seems totally ridiculous. But we're here, we're interviewing you, and ridiculous feels like it's part of our memo. But do you have plans to get back outdoors? Because the way I've often looked at like people like Andre, he uses like these big comps, big events as almost like training blocks to then unleash upon the outdoors.
Yeah, so I'm holding back from the outdoors until the Olympics. Like it's hard, but once I find I focus on something, I just fully focus on that. So right now that's the Olympics for me. But after the Olympics, oh man, I'm psyched just to get everywhere and just climb outdoors just wherever I can. I've got projects lined up like all around the world. I just want to get out and then use, like you said, like Andre does, I just want to use the form that I'll have coming off the back of the Olympics and then just go out and try and go on like a rampage.
The really interesting thing that came up in the Future of Hard Bouldering session was that as a comp climber, you need like a really broad skill set. Like you've got to become an all-rounder, because you need to be able to cope with anything that the route setters present. When you actually step away from comp climbing, or when you're just having a well-deserved rest after Paris 2024, you can actually hone in on like just sort of specialisms or particular things you enjoy. So what would be top of your list, do you think?
Well, I put a bit of time into Perfectamundo. I love that route. I really want to try that. I've never really outdoor bouldered before. It's as surprising as it sounds. I've never really done that. It's just not really.
You should try it. It's
I'm psyched. Activity. Yeah, I want to just get out and then try some really hard boulders like Magic Wood, Fontainebleau, as well as. Yeah, there's just so much stuff I want to do. It'll be hard to list it all.
This is another question we've asked, of Will, which is, are there any other climbers who are particularly like impressing you or like inspiring you at the moment?
Jakob Schubert.
The man.
Jakob Schubert, for me, he's been the most impressive person this season. I think like what he's done has been incredible. Like to be at that age, having competed your whole career, to come out at the Bern World Champs and execute like that and just pretty much dominate the competition was really, really impressive. I've spent some time training with him, and like I've seen him in Innsbruck, and he's a really nice guy as well. So yeah, he's a great guy and he's incredibly strong.
The thing that has always impressed me with Jakob is that when it feels like something happens when the competition starts and he goes into beast mode, it's like he just turns it up another notch and he uses all of that pressure into something positive.
Yeah,
and
I think
brings out the best in him.
That's really like an acquired skill. I think to start with, pressure and stuff can also sometimes weigh you down. But once you learn to turn that pressure into like then you know how to come out and execute your route. That's when you become dangerous. And I think Jakob really showed that. Like when he came out for his final route in Bern, like he looked like
he topped the route before he stepped onto it.
Yeah, he looked scary. Like he was. But yeah, that was really impressive to see.
Well, Toby, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And I just can't wait until Paris 2024 to see you on like the big screen doing your thing and hopefully just having the time of your life.
Yeah, I can't wait to get there.
Did you get the impression he really likes climbing? He likes climbing. Keep an eye on our YouTube channel for daily reports and on ukclimbing.com for further analysis.